You know how people always call Montana the last best place? Well, if that's true, then the Bitterroot Valley, that's its heart. We're talking about this incredible 70-mile stretch of river, mountains, and pure grit that tells a story about the American West that is literally unfolding as we speak.
And I mean, how perfect is that description? It just nails it. This isn't just some random valley on a map. No, it's got a real personality. It's rugged for sure, but it's where all the action is. It just pulls you in.
All right, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll get the lay of the land. Then, we'll peel back the layers of history. After that, we're going to meet the real landowners. And hint, they're not human. Then, we'll get into the modern-day divide. And finally, what I'm calling the Bitterroot philosophy, what it really takes to call this place home. So, first things first, you have to understand the landscape. I mean, the entire character of this valley is shaped by two massive and totally different mountain ranges that stand guard on either side. Okay, so check this out. It's like the valley is defined by these two dueling personalities. On the west, you've got the Bitterroots. They're described as heavy metal teenagers. Jagged, granite, kind of arrogant. They're steep, snow-capped, just intense. And then on the east, you have the Sapphires, the chill, older cousins. They're all rolling, forested, welcoming. They're where you find the huckleberries. This contrast, it is absolutely everything. And what's flowing right down the middle between these two opposites? The Bitterroot River. And let me tell you, this is way more than just pretty scenery. It is the lifeblood of this place. It's this serpentine river of cold water that basically sets the rhythm for life, for everyone and everything, from the folks ranching to the trout everyone's trying to catch. All right, so now that we've got the geography, let's dig into the history. Because you've got all these different layers, stories of endurance, of new arrivals, of massive transformation, all stacked right on top of each other, building the complex place we see today. So where does the name Bitterroot even come from? It comes from this plant, which is central to the Salish people, who were here long before anyone else. They called it the starvation flower. And think about that. A flower that's beautiful but harsh, something that can save you but it's bitter. Man, is that not the perfect metaphor for the valley itself? It's stunningly beautiful, but it absolutely demands your respect and hard work. So for timeless ages, this was Salish land. And then, boom, suddenly you get this rush of firsts. In 1805, Lewis and Clark show up at a spot they call Traveler's Rest. Not long after, in 1841, Jesuit missionaries arrive and set up St. Mary's Mission. And then, in the late 1800s, the game totally changes. You get a Gilded Age copper king, Marcus Daly, building this enormous estate. Each one of these arrivals left a completely permanent mark, a new layer on the valley's story. Okay, now let's talk about the real landowners. The ones who were here way before any property lands were drawn, and frankly, the ones who still command the most respect. I'm talking about the wildlife. Seriously, you can't even begin to understand the Bitterroot without talking about the animals. If you ever drive down Highway 93 around dusk, you'll see what I mean. It's not just a deer or two, it's these giant waves of elk and deer moving across the landscape. You've got moose, these so-called swamp donkeys with a bad attitude down by the river. You've got grizzlies, the apex predators making a comeback. And the trout? Oh, man, that's not just fishing. It's practically a religion, the church of the dry fly. It's this constant, powerful reminder that we're really just guests here. So while the wild things carry on, the human side of the valley, well, that's where things get complicated. And that brings us to the real core tension of the place today. It's this deep, sometimes pretty awkward identity crisis. It's a full-on clash of cultures. And this really breaks it down. On one side, you have old Bitterroot. We're talking fourth-generation ranchers and loggers, a place where a handshake is still a binding contract, and a single traffic light feels like a personal insult. And on the other side, new Bitterroot, people who watched Yellowstone and decided they want to be cowboys. We're talking million-dollar cabins popping up, high-tech labs like Rocky Mountain Labs, and tourists searching for their soul. This friction, this is the story of the valley right now. So with all this going on, this incredible beauty and this very real tension, how do people actually make a life here? How do you navigate it all? Well, it seems to take a certain mindset, a kind of unwritten code. Let's call it the Bitterroot philosophy. So what exactly is this philosophy? Let's break it down, because living here is about way more than just owning a piece of land. It's about a whole way of being that the place kind of forces you to adopt. It really comes down to these three unwritten rules. Number one, feel small. You just have to accept that the mountains, the river, the weather, they're in charge, not you.
Number 2, get on Montana time. Yeah, a tractor on the road is a totally valid reason to be late for something. You just got to go with it. And number 3, find your grit. Because look, it is not an easy place to make a living, but it is an easy place to make a life. And that's a huge difference. And this is the thing you got to remember. For all the tourist brochures and Instagram posts, the Bitterroot is not a theme park. It's a real working valley. People are out there every day, ranching, farming, logging, and arguing about what's next. That debate about how to grow without destroying what makes the place special, that's happening every single day. Which leads us to the big final question, right? As this intense new wave of change washes over the valley, what's going to happen? Is this just another chapter in a long, long story of enduring change? Or is there a real risk that the valley could lose the very soul that makes it, well, the Bitterroot? That's the question, and the story is being written as we speak.